Hey, Bikeaholics, Zero 3D has a wide variety of innovative products for your Harley-Davidson and a brand new line for the all-new Honda Goldwing named Gold Strike. Top quality, affordable chrome lighting and comfort products. Zero Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN, bus, plug, and play system compatibility. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Check out our full line of Zero 3D products.
Hi, Ryan. My name is Mike Fairbanks. I live in north central Iowa. I'm a serviceman. I put on like 40,000 miles on my service truck a year. So I'm constantly looking for a podcast to listen to, so I'm not listening to the same old music every 3 minutes. Anyway, enough said about that. Thank you so much for your informational videos and podcasts and just your journeys of what you and your crew goes through. It's really entertaining. And thank you for everything you do. Believe it or not, you touched everybody across the world, as you know. And don't stop, because we're all waiting for more. Thank you.
How about that? Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the voicemail. I wish more of you out there would leave voicemails, the large audience, because I love them, and I love to be able to play those voicemails. So Mike Fairbanks of North Central Iowa, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to keep moving forward with support of the community like that. He simply went to lawabidingbiker.com/contact, and he left us a voicemail right there. There's a button you can push. You can leave a voicemail from your phone, from your computer, whatever. And then we have our regular phone number to our hotline and all that kind of stuff. But we love those computer voicemails. Very, very cool. Oh yeah, once you've had Rick Rack, you'll never go back. The ultimate motorcycle luggage rack solution. Forget those messy straps and bungee cords. Go strapless with a Rick Rack quick attach luggage system and quality bag. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Get hooked up now. All right, Oscar, let's officially do this thing.
Oh, yeah. Because we are not off track already.
Nope. Welcome back, you freaking bikeaholics. This is the podcast for the motorcycle majority. The Big MM, also known as the
99%.
Large and in charge of the motorcycle scene more than any time in history. By being here and listening, you're part of what we call hashtag
Biker Revolution.
Look at that.
Holy cow.
That's right. Oscar and I just have one question for you before we get started. What are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Mount up.
Let's take you on a wild-ass ride.
Yeah, there you go. Ryan Erlacher here, your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast, and of course, your... Yeah?
High-tech redneck.
I'm giving you the music to try to... Come on.
Oh.
All right, there you go.
Heavy metal specialist.
That was a cue. No, you did great. You did great. You nailed it. You haven't...
Finally, for a long time.
As the way this day went, I totally expected you to just muff that.
I should have muffed.
But you usually do.
I do. That's true. It's good to succeed sometimes.
Been hanging with Oscar all day since early this morning. That is what this episode is going to be all about, is what we've been through today. It was supposed to be, let me set this up for you real quick, and then we're going to get in. So it's basically installing new front suspension as titled on a Harley Touring. Now, I will paint the picture for you all out there. We got started. I knew we needed to start early. We're going to talk a lot about this, and it actually hopefully will interest a lot of you if you're thinking about a front suspension upgrade. And of course, we've been filming all day. But as we sit now, started at 8:30, ran into some problems, and which is usual, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we here at Law Abiding Biker Media, we film this. We painstakingly do it to make sure we get it right. We figure things out when instructions completely lack. We call resources. We do what we need to do because we want to get it on video, because nobody else is really doing it. A lot of these type of projects right. It's kind of half-assed. You guys know what I'm talking about. Or they talk about stuff and they don't show it. You guys know, we've been around long enough here. We do it different than everybody else in our opinion. We do it our own way, I should say. Not that there's not other people doing some good stuff out there. We just have the way we do it. So we work through these problems. Filming it, of course, takes twice as long. So as we sit now, we set this to go live. And so we had to actually stop we should have been done before we went live podcast. So the bike's on the lift. It's missing one front fork still. We got another fork up in the vise on the workbench. We're tired. We're greasy, sweaty.
Yeah.
I've been filming and having to help because it's just me and Oscar today. We could have actually used another set of hands today while filming, but here we are. We got in the studio. I had like 25 minutes, 30 minutes to get everything up and running. As you see, that was a debacle on top of it. So, but hey, we're here in the studio. We're hanging out with awesome patron members. This is a live broadcast and chat for our mid-level and above patron members. We love you. Love that you could be here. And we're going to make, no matter what, we're going to make the live episode happen. And then right after, we're going to go right back out there and work into the evening to finish this film project.
So I can go home.
So you can go home. Exactly. But me and Oscar have a lot of fun and bouncing ideas off each other, both film ideas and angles and also the mechanical side of it. It's always better to have two heads, especially when you run into some issues and things like that. So love hanging with Oscar, and we bicker and we laugh a lot, and then we bicker and we laugh a lot. But neither of us takes it personal because we just hack on each other. Mm-hmm. And then one person doesn't understand. They're just like, dude, I don't even understand what you're saying. And then Oscar will explain it a different way. I'm like, oh yeah, actually that makes perfect sense. But sometimes we don't listen to each other.
That's true.
Because we already have made up in our minds what he's going to say. He's like, no, it's not what I'm saying. Here's the idea I have. Yeah. Oh shit, I should have just listened. I've been there, dude.
Oh yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit it, dude.
No,
but that's the fun
know.
Because me and Oscar have that relationship that
it's fun.
We literally don't care and there's no hard feelings.
No.
We just, we still get in here and he's asking me about getting coffee. Like we're already off track, but this is a fun story.
Yeah.
He's all right. I'm stressed trying to get the damn technology up here. And he's like, think I have time for a cup of coffee? I'm like, I don't know if you have time for a cup of coffee. Dude, I'm trying. No, but it was funny. So I forgot he knew I had to use our Nespresso machine. And so he ran in the house with like 10 minutes and got himself a cup of coffee. I'm like, just go in there. I don't even know if my wife's in there. Just get a cup of coffee.
Dying.
So,
I would have fallen asleep mid podcast. Like, oh yeah.
If you guys saw us behind the scenes, you'd just be like, you guys brothers? Yeah, straight up.
We are. We're family.
Yeah. So good times here. Thanks for being in the chat. So that's the main topic today. We're going to tell you a whole bunch of useful information on that. New free video real quick. We always try to announce. I did release about 7 or 8 days ago. I can't remember now. It's booming, and it is my brand new documentary film. And this is, I'll put it in the show notes. I'll link to it, lawabidingbiker.com/whatever episode number this is. But get over to the YouTube channel. Booming. We're at 130K subscribers now. If you want to see any of my documentary films, including the new one I released, I always keep a really nice landing page for that. It's over at lawabidingbiker.com/ride-now. That's /ride-now. And that will get you to all my documentary films. And anytime a new one comes out, it goes up there. And of course, it takes you back into YouTube, but they're all just kind of listed there. But this one is called Riding Motorcycles in Real America. And basically what it stems from is when we had the first West Coast patron member meetup. This event was organized by the patron members, for patron members, bikers meeting bikers. It was not a sanctioned event by us. We always say that jokingly. It was unsanctioned, which we love. It was organized by Brad Johnston down there in the Redmond, Oregon area. A lot of the law-abiding biker crew was actually able to go down for it. Of course, the documentary films covers everything from start to us riding down just as a crew to us riding with and meeting the patron members. And then, of course, a bunch of debacles in between, a bunch of nonsense, and then some really cool stories when we ran out of gas in a particular small town and how people came to the rescue, like good, hardworking Americans, that are willing to help each other. There's a lot of messages in the film. I hope you enjoy it. It took me a lot of time. I can't believe I got it out. I busted my ass in between right after Sturgis, and I had some of it edited before Sturgis. Anyways, there you go. I hope everybody's really enjoying that film. Please share it with all your biker friends. Get out there and check out that film. And like I say, share it around as much as you can. Now, we love our sponsors up front, but speaking of our patron members, we love the following people for signing up as new patron members. Oh, I don't, dude.
The TV's not on. Just read them out. Don't worry.
Yeah. Jim Kinsley of Bloomington, Illinois, top tier. David Rodriguez of Pembroke Pines, Florida. Todd Mercer of United States Military. There you go. Love the military and supporting them. Ty Fox of Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Alicia Bryant of University Place, Washington. Oh, right here. That's right. Top tier, right? Washington State. Ewan Brown of Melbourne, Australia. Shout out Australia. Richard Tardy of Marion, Indiana. Brad Varmo of Thornton, Colorado. And Dan Norman. There you go. Thanks. lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon. Patreon. Sign up. That's right. We'd love to have you as a patron member. There are benefits for signing up, such as t-shirts and stickers. You get into the private Facebook group, which is blowing up, of course. You get access to these live video broadcasts and chat. You get access to podcasts months before everybody else and access to our premium videos up on request. Tons of benefits going on there. Of course, that documentary film and that patron meetup was one of those awesome benefits. And I'm just firing up the TV here. I didn't have it set up for Oscar.
That's okay. I can't read anyway.
Let me do our, where's my input? There it is. We need to go to HDMI 2.
What are we watching?
Well, it's on Apple TV.
We're friggin' off track right now.
That should bring up the show notes there for you. There you go, guys. Show notes up. You didn't tell me when we were getting going ever that I was missing those, but I had enough to deal with, apparently.
I was busy over here.
Yeah, right. Sitting there. Right. You can't even look up and go, hey, Ryan, the show notes are up there. So there you go. So let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's do this. Oscar, tell me about why now Oscar has a 2013 Ultra Limited, and many of you that have ridden with it have seen that bike. You wanted to do a front suspension mod. Tell me why you wanted to do that and what's going on with your bike.
Oh boy. I mean, it's got almost 48,000 miles on it. So service stuff's coming up. And then it had to have been in late May. The wife and I went for a ride down towards Portland, and then we came up through a ride that we do every spring, and we came up through kind of South Central Washington, and it was bad. Like the bike was really bouncy. Like it was just really bad. We would go over bumps and the bike is bouncing around, and the front end was like out of control. And so then I really noticed it when I started hitting the front. I'm a big front brake user guy. And so like I hit the front brake and the bike just goes and it doesn't stop.
Kind of like on our KLRs.
It was
which is why we put stiffer suspension in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
front braking.
I was like, damn. I was gonna do cams, but then I'm like, damn, I got to do the front suspension bad. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so I got on the private Facebook page and put out a call for just recommendations. And Gary Jackson and a couple other guys came up with kits. So there's basically, my choice was cartridge kit or front fork rebuild, exactly like we did on the KLRs, where a company came up with a different valving setup or whatever. And so I checked out the kit that Gary sent me the info on, and it was really reasonably priced. It was just under $300. And excuse me, compared to the cartridge kits from Legends and Olin's, I think they were $800 or $900.
Explain the difference to the audience between a cartridge kit and what do you want to call it? A rebuild kit?
A rebuild kit.
Rebuild kit for front forks and a cartridge kit.
Right. So your stock, okay, not on all the bikes, but like on mine, my front forks have a damper rod and oil and a spring in there, just like our KLRs do, which is a real common fork setup. Some of I think the CVOs and then maybe some of the other bikes like the Street Glide Specials, newer ones, and then or aftermarket is basically one, you can buy it as a sealed unit. It's kind of what we did.
Not stock though.
I thought that some of the CVOs came with a cartridge on
the
one
CVOs.
side.
I don't think my Street Glide Special does.
Not yours, but some of the newer ones.
Oh,
you may
gotcha.
find a cartridge in one side and nothing in the other. So the cartridge kit is just like a sealed unit. It's like the difference between a shock and a strut or something. Anyway, instead of having separate pieces in an oil bath, it's all contained in one big piece that you drop in the fork.
Okay.
So and the cartridge kits, some of the advantages there.
You said one side?
Yeah.
And you may find nothing in your other?
You may find nothing
So
in
you
your
just
other.
put a cartridge in one?
You could. Some of the bike. Who was just telling me their bike is that way?
Wow. That's new to me.
Yeah. And actually the instructions in the kit we bought say, if you have a cartridge in one side, just do this on the other.
Really?
Yeah. So you may end up
Why would
having-
you do this and a cartridge then?
Oh
my God,
I
we're
don't
going
have the
deep
answer
here.
to that. Yeah, I don't have the answer to why you would do
This sounds-
oil bath in one side and cartridge in the
Yeah.
other. But,
That's crazy.
You may have a cartridge only in one side. So, what ultimately the reviews on the kit I bought. Oh, I'm not even paying attention to the chat. The reviews on the kit I bought and the company and the reviews on the cartridge kits, they were all really good reviews. And so I couldn't find a bad one out there. So I just went, hey, this is a little cheaper. We've already done it in the KLRs. I understand how that works. And the beauty of a rebuild kit over a cartridge is if your cartridge fails, if a seal inside there fails and the gas escapes or whatever,
Because they're gas driven. Yeah, right.
They can't. Yeah, gas.
We actually looked at them for our KLRs and they were super expensive like that.
Yes.
And we were worried about that. Like they just fail, right?
And one of the complaints was if the cartridge fails, it's over. You're done. You have to wait for a new cartridge. Whereas there's nothing to fail on these damper kits. So it's 6-1 out, dozen the other. I'm not saying that the damper kit is better. I'm just saying these are some of the things I considered. So price and the fact that there's no failure in the damper rod. You buy the fluid, that's not going to fail. So
Right.
we went with a damper rod rebuild kit, and that's what we did. So that was my choice.
And there are, just so you guys know, there's a plethora of, this isn't rocket science necessarily. Different companies do it different ways. Like our KLRs, we went with one particular company, but there was other companies making similar stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a spring and possibly a valve, depending on how, like our KLRs came with a predetermined valve with a predictable flow rate, right?
Yes.
Basically.
Yep. Right.
If I said that right. But in Oscar's case, if you're going to Oscar's got a 13, if you're going to get in there, and you're going to be doing, a spring and stuff, then you want to do a fork rebuild kit while you're in there. So
yeah, that's been part of the issue is the kit I ordered, the springs and stuff is pretty quick, but especially with almost 48,000 miles, why would I not do the seals and the bushings and all that? We should just do all that because it's not leaking. And there's some people will tell you if your seals aren't leaking, don't bother them. But we're going to be in there. Let's just do
it's
the whole thing.
$50.
It was $50
for a kit.
Right.
Honestly, when I do mine, I'm going to see how Oscar likes this. I may do mine too. My fluid is due for changing anyways.
You're right.
And it's interesting on that note. I love how these conversations go.
Yeah.
On that note, we also are going to put out a video on how to if you just want to change your fluid in your forks on a pre-14 touring.
Right.
So we film that in the process so we can show people how to do that on the YouTube channel. But the 14 is even different. So when I do my 14 and on, you do that a little bit different. So that'll be another video within itself. But yeah, I like how Oscar's bike and the older bikes that I've had do it the way we did it today. So,
well, and we could have just done the fluid. That was probably a portion of the problem. But I'm like,
because he's never changed his fork fluid.
Never changed. I knew that was coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was coming up. It's past
It's one of those things. Yeah. Right.
I didn't really notice it riding by myself. But this year, especially with the wife on there, it was bad.
And you noticed this because Oscar and his wife bombed down when we met in Shaniko, Oregon, halfway through the patron ride or the first quarter through. They bombed all the way down. It's in the documentary film. Medicine Shaniko rode with us for like 45 minutes and then bombed all the way back. Were you noticing all this on that ride?
Yeah, this was actually, yes,
yeah.
I was. The ride her and I did before that, I already knew. And so this ride, it was apparent. It was not good.
Yeah. Okay.
But we were going to go anyway. We had childcare for the day.
Right.
But it was just bad. And so then so I already knew I was going to do this suspension. And then this last ride, her and I went on, what did we do? Almost 600 miles in one day with part of the group. And she said, I'm not riding anymore. It was that bad.
And she gave you the green light to buy new suspension.
Yes.
So here we are.
I
love the green light to buy motorcycle parts.
Yeah.
We've been waiting to do a front suspension for you guys. We've got so much stuff on our list. It's just time and money and parts and getting it together and filming it. So, but this is actually an exciting project for me. The last time I did a front end, this was back in where I actually replaced the forks and suspension, was on my Wide Glide. And it was a 2005 Wide Glide. I upgraded that back in 2006 before really there was no YouTube videos on that. I literally winged it and did it. I mean, of course I had a service manual, and I knew a guy at a bike shop, a local bike shop that's not in business anymore. And he let me borrow a seal driver.
Yeah.
And cause he had 3 of them, and I took it home, and he kind of told me what to do. And I just did it by myself in my shop and winged it.
Right.
But it turned out good. But so it was exciting to dig back into a front end.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you tell a little bit, if somebody wants to do a fork rebuild? We're doing a fork rebuild kit and an upgrade. Why don't you tell them kind of how we started and what's involved in it, and then we can talk about some of the problems you might run into, and some of the. Let's also talk about some of the tools, which I will put when I release the YouTube video. I will put links to the tools. Some of them we're going to put in the Law Abiding Biker store because they're really useful. But you do need a few specialty tools and some things you should have on hand if you're going to do this particular project. Some things you need to know.
Right.
Yeah. So
one of the things you need to know is there's not really much in the way of videos out there for this. And you know that if you guys that have Harley service manuals, they'll tell you Harley part number, blah, blah, blah. And not every dealership wants to sell you the Harley parts. So you have to go about figuring out some other way of determining what that tool is. And that was one of the problems I had up front, was like, damn, what freaking tools do I need? There was a lot of fork rebuild videos out there, when the fork's off the bike and the seals and all that stuff. That's pretty straightforward. But like the service manual showed one thing, and I couldn't tell, right? Because the inner fairing is buried the top of the fork. So I couldn't see what was up there. So I didn't know how involved it was actually going to be, because a lot of the stuff I found and people, talk on the forums is like, oh, just pop the forks off, take 5 minutes. And then, okay, well, on a Dyna, it's totally different than on a touring bike.
That's why I don't frequent forums.
Well,
I know you have to sometimes.
There was just nothing out there.
It's okay.
So,
hey,
what do we do?
Some guys do. I get it. Yeah.
So like even the seal kit, when I ordered the fork kit, the guy told me, hey, you're going to need to do seals and bushings and stuff. I'll send the kit. When I called back to check on shipping, he said, hey, it's back ordered. So I went to the Harley dealership. The Harley dealership was back ordered. Harley doesn't really like to tell you, because they don't want you to go out and buy an aftermarket kit. Mm-hmm. So I had to just kind of read and look at old videos and figure out the seal kit that I thought I needed. But it didn't come with those stupid copper washers. So I had to buy a separate set of bolts and copper washers. So we can get the copper washers.
Right, because we didn't know the size, right?
Because we didn't know the size. And no one tells you what size this crap is. And
Oscar did some great research on this project, let me tell you.
It was stressful because
I could tell.
This is not something I can do at my house. And so I knew I had to do it here, and I knew I wasn't going to do it by myself, even here if you were gone. Mm-hmm. So we had this weekend. We had today. Yep. We don't even have the whole weekend. We had today. So it was stressful because I just like, how hard can this be? And then I realized it's real hard because no one wants to tell you what's what. Because the older bikes and there's 39 mil forks, 41 mil forks, 49 mil forks. I couldn't figure out how much freaking fluid to put in there. Mm-hmm. So I ended up buying too much fluid, which is fine. That means I can mess around with it later. But
how much fluid for your new setup?
Yes.
Right. Because obviously the service manual tells you for stock setup, but it's different for whatever company and aftermarket springs.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it turned out not to be different. Right. I didn't know.
Right, exactly.
And so I'm calling this company, and they're open Monday through Thursday, and they were great to work with. Don't get me wrong. But I watched their video ahead of time, and it was not that great. And
it's horrible.
They do things like just use the stock setup.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so the book says this. Okay. So already it's becoming a thing.
But it's great. This is how we learn.
Right.
Like I said, one video that's blown up, I told Oscar this today, is my how to fix your ignition if you misalign it when you're doing handlebar. Whenever you're taking your ignition off, that spawned, me and Lurch did a podcast on that. That spawned out of Lurch effing up my ignition and misaligning it.
Right.
And I literally had to spend days, I'm not going to go over that story again, because they want you to just buy a whole new one. I said, no, I gutted the thing, took it apart, sat out here for hours and hours trying to figure out how to do it, and finally figured it out, put out that video. There you go.
Bam.
That video, I get nothing but praise from people are like, oh my God, because they're in an emergency in their shop and they look it up and find it. So this kind of stuff and issues
happened to us today.
This is how our videos spawn. And we actually get excited when sometimes after we figure out a problem, because we're like, people are going to love this. This is going to help bikers. This right here is going to help so many bikers. And that's what it's all about anyways with us, which is why we still do days like today. So that's exciting for us, right?
It's great. Now that we're essentially 3/4 of the way through.
Right.
I'm like, this is so cool. I learned so much cool shit.
Yeah.
And it was a little nerve-wracking. I'm going to be honest with you up front. I was a little scared because I'm like, I'm reading the manual, which is vague in details. I'm watching some videos that don't have all the steps. And I don't exactly know. What I tell you when I walk in, I don't know what the top end of this is going to be. We're just going to have to figure it out.
That's all going to change when we release the law-abiding biker video.
So
it's going to show everything step by step, like we always do, without skipping steps. We hate that.
Or consulting multiple resources,
right?
And I was trying to piece together bits of information. It was a mess. It was stressful. But I had to do it. Like, the bike is unrideable. My wife rides a ton. She can go 600-mile days. So when she said, I'm not riding anymore, I knew I have to fix this thing or sell it. Well, that's stupid. I like that bike.
Yeah.
So we have to fix it. And then, what do you figure? In labor alone, probably $400.
Oh, easy.
At a dealership.
Easy.
And that's if they don't mark up the kit. I mean,
probably more.
It's $1,000 job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So we're hopeful that this video is going to be awesome and well received and going to help so many bikers out there. So yeah. Let's dive into the actual project, what people can expect as far as, of course we have the lift, the Titan lift, the mini jack.
Yeah.
You could do this project on a jack. That's up to you. But thank God we're blessed.
Yes.
I get it. Not everybody can afford a lift. I couldn't for years. I struggled. When I did my fork job, I did it on a chintzy old jack from an auto parts store. It was like $60. I'm surprised that bike didn't fall on me and shit. But nonetheless, I got it. We're just blessed to have a lift now. So we put it up on the lift. And why don't you go into a little bit about what's gonna happen here? They got to take forks out. You don't have to get in every detail, but what are they looking at here? Like, when you remove the gas tank, talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, it's a big job. So, I mean,
talk about the fork cap wrench, how that would have saved us and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you have to take the interfering apart, which is hence the mention of the ignition. And I knew that. up front. And it's not really that big of a deal, but it just takes a little time. So you pull the ignition and you pull the interfering off, and then the top of the forks are exposed. So here's the first issue we ran into, which is on the 39 mil forks, at least most of them, it's a traditional fork cap, and under the fork cap is the spring. So for the 41 mil forks, or at least some of them, there is a 2-piece fork cap, a plug. So you can pull the plug and you can do we're on the podcast, or the video will show that. That's how you do the drain and fill. Mm-hmm. Pull the plug on the top.
You mean just the fork cap nut?
It's called a fork cap plug.
Right. Okay.
That's the very top piece.
It's the big nut on top.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a 1 3/8 inch, so it's huge. So the fork cap wrench allows you to get underneath the handlebars, because the handlebars are there, and a little bit probably above the tank with your ratchet, so that you can just turn it and break it loose.
It's very low profile. It allows you to get in there, basically.
Exactly.
Because with your tank on a regular box end wrench, you're struggling to get any turnage on.
We couldn't.
Yeah.
We couldn't get any turn.
Now, we did order a fork cap wrench. I will let you all know. We were very prepared, but with COVID and all the shipping issues, which we're dealing with in our store too, it literally, there's nothing I could do. And from any company, I couldn't. And I ordered, and that was like 9 days ahead of this project, and almost 10 days. And it literally still isn't here. Luckily, some other stuff came in early that we ordered, but that wasn't our fault. So we had to do it. A lot of bikers out there do is use what you have on hand and make it work. So go ahead from there.
So the coolest, one of the first parts that was cool is I don't have a place at my house to do anything more than basic maintenance stuff. So I'd never taken my tank off. And so we get to take my tank off, and I'm like, this is freaking cool. I learned how to tank my tank.
I forgot we've had so many tanks off of this shop, but never Oscars.
Never mind. And so we took the tank off, which was cool. It was super easy. And then that gave us plenty of room to work. And so, but even still, we ended up buying a 1 3/8 box end combination wrench because it makes it a little easier to stay on top of that cap plug. And so great, got those loose. And then what? So it's a 2-piece. So underneath there is a 21 mil fork cap. That's what actually holds the spring in.
There's a little hole in the top of it.
Right. So some of the videos that the makers of the videos talk about, and in the Harley-Davidson manual, it talks about using a fork holder, part number, whatever. Harley can't talk. Hate that. But anyway, so that was another thing, getting parts on time. I didn't know if I was going to get all the parts on time because stuff was back ordered.
We kept it scheduled. We were just like, let's just keep it scheduled. And if it happens, it happens. And if not, we'll go ride KLRs.
Exactly. That was exactly it. So the fork tube holder was another thing that randomly showed up on time. And so,
well, a fork tube holder, for you don't know, we got a Jim's fork tube holder. I'm going to be carrying it in the Law Abiding Biker store. I just haven't added it yet. It's a super handy tool. It basically goes in your vise and it allows you to clamp your, obviously without causing any damage, then it allows you to clamp your fork down so that you can work on it and remove parts and add parts, right?
Yep, exactly. If you're by yourself, especially if you're by yourself.
Especially if you're by yourself,
Yep,
yes.
If you're by yourself. So we're like, oh, we're going to put the fork in that and then we're going to do everything else. Well, some of the videos I watched, you can do this project if you can't get the fork tube holder. You can do a lot of this.
You got to take your forks all the way off, guys.
You do have to take them all the way out, but you can do some of this stuff by leaving the forks in the clamp on the bike,
which we found beneficial.
Which we found a little easier than the fork tube holder for that cap.
We actually went back and put a fork back in and clamped it down.
Yes.
And that's how we learn them. Then we know how to teach you guys the proper way so you don't have to make any mistakes we made.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's going to save you
not
time.
a mistake, just a quicker way to do things.
Yes.
Yeah, right. A more efficient way.
And way more efficient. Pull the cap plug and then drop the fork down, 5 or 6 inches and then tighten it back up and then break that.
You're using that as your fork vise. You're using the bike as your fork vise.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly it. So, and once we figured that out, all right, it wasn't that bad. And then let me back up. Just taking the front end apart was a pain in the ass. It took a while to take the brake calipers off and to take the
remember, we're filming, guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
But it's a lot of stuff. You know?
It's tedious. You just got to,
work through
it's
it.
Tedious and it takes time.
Yep. So
to get the front wheel off, because you got to get the front wheel off and then the calipers off out of your way because you got to take the forks off. Right. And so you're just, and you're zip tying a lot of the calipers out of the way onto your crash bars and dangling them there. And we were able to let his fender, because his front fender, you got to remove it. And those are,
it's got a front fender light.
Yeah. It's got a front fender light and a wire. So we had to nail a bunch of zip ties off or cut them off so that we had enough extension so we could at least put the fender down without, cutting that wire and then resoldering, or we would have had to get up in the fairing and try to find where it plugs in.
Oh yeah.
And so, you're trying to help make a little bit of time. And so we're just working through all that stuff.
Yeah. And it just eats up time. So expect this to be a day project.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
if you want to do it right and you don't want to rush through it and get stressed.
Right. Expect
tying the bike down, putting it on a mini jack, getting the wheel chock out so we could get the wheel. It just, one thing just it's always time, right?
It's just time.
Yep.
So, and then we did the fork service. So we're going to show you how to do a basic fork service. If you have 30,000 on your bike and it's a little soft up front, but you otherwise liked it when you first got it, you can just pull the bottom screw and the top cap plug and just drain the fluid and put new fluid in.
Yep.
And so then therein we learned Harley's, they use Torx.
In their infinite wisdom. And we've known this for a long time.
That's stupid. Torx and hex on the entire bike for a reason, because that's how fasteners that need to be tight are.
And they don't strip out.
And they don't strip out. Except for that stupid drain screw on the front fork is a freaking Phillips head. How do you, and the screwdriver's right up against the
like
fork.
a mother.
It's super tight. So
we've dealt with this for years, and anybody who's done this, who has Hardys, know what we're talking about. Right at the bottom of your forks, little Phillips screw. That's actually your drain plug for your fork oil.
Yes.
And it kind of goes, it's to the rear of the fork, and go from there.
How do you? So you can, depending on the screwdriver, and it is a big Phillips, so it's not your common screwdriver.
Right.
So
and if you think you're going to do that with your hands, we tried.
Yeah,
and I've tried before, but you always got to give it a shot.
You do.
You feel like He-Man if you break it. If you break it free without stripping it, you feel like He-Man. You're like, I'm the man. And his have never been taken off. Remember, 2013, and so they're seized on there good. And I even put some WD-40 up in those bad boys and let it sit so we could try to break those.
That didn't work. We ended up getting a 1-inch socket fit over the end of the screwdriver.
Yep.
And so with a ratchet,
end of the handle,
ratchet,
right?
Yep. So the ratchet into the socket, and
So
then
you're
the
getting
socket
some
over-
leverage.
side leverage, not straight on leverage, and then you ended up having to hold or kind of push on.
My job was to keep pressure on the screwdriver into the head of the Phillips so it wouldn't back out or strip. And at the same time, Oscar was cranking on the wrench, trying to break these damn things free and we actually slipped out once and it stripped it a little bit, and then we were able to get it back in there. But the chances of stripping those out, if you're not draining it, your fork oil, or you're not ready to change it, I would highly suggest that you at least try to break those a little bit and then just snug them back down, just because over years they get seized.
They do.
And the best thing to do, my recommendation, and then we're going to, we got some cool stuff coming up, but then my recommendation is, take them out, drain your oil. We're going to do a video on this. It's pretty basic, but hey, a lot of people don't know and they're uncomfortable doing it. So we're going to do that, but is take those out and then go down to your hardware store and replace those. It's kind of like a lot of people replace their derby cover bolts with get a good, Torx or something else, or just a nut, a regular, because we all know those derby cover ones strip out too, and they're actually Torx, but they're really soft.
They are.
So you can replace all that hardware. And so that would be one thing when I do mine. Actually, my bike doesn't have those. It's different. So we're going to do a different video on that. But if I had Oscar's bike, definitely, if you're just draining your oil, replace those, go to the hardware store, get something with Torx or something with just a regular, like a nut, something you can use a nut driver on, or a socket or something like that. That will save you a whole bunch of headaches.
It will. And that was so
let me do this real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Bikeaholics, searching for new and exciting motorcycle products? Zero 3D has the products you dream about for your bike. Check out their wide variety of innovative products for Harley-Davidson and Honda Goldwing motorcycles. Zero 3D's got your back with chrome, black parts, lighting, and other comfort products. No modifying, cutting, grinding, or welding. For an easy installation, that equals less time installing, more time riding. Zero 3D has a design team of riders with over 40 years experience with a passion for design and innovation. And we learned that because we got to meet them in Sturgis and hang out with them. Zero Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN bus plug-and-play system compatibility. They pride themselves on great customer service. Got a question? Get in touch with them. Email sales@zero3d.com. Give them a call, 715-808-0027. Check out your local Harley or Honda dealership and ask for Zero or Gold Strike parts. A new leader has emerged. So check out Zero 3D's custom line of Gold Strike products for the all-new Honda Goldwing. Better yet, support us. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Check out our full line of Zero 3D products. All right, pick it up from there, Oscar. What you're going to say?
Those guys, Zero 3D guys, were awesome.
They were badass.
They really were.
So happy to have them as sponsors, and we just work together so well.
Yeah, they're cool dudes and gals. So so the screw and then change the fluid. So you could just do that if you wanted to, and you could get away with it and it would be fine if you're, not really, maybe not quite as many miles, or it's a little soft, maybe the fluid's burnt. But we're going to do the whole kit. So you loosen that plug cap, and freaking fluid's going to go everywhere. So if you can drain it through that screw, if you can get it off without stripping it and drain it through that screw before you do it, good idea. Because then you're not going to get fluid. So we took it off, and then the cap. Do you want me to talk about the first debacle with the cap?
Which debacle coming off?
Yeah, with the bowl.
Oh yeah, God, dude.
So, it's under spring tension,
and we know this.
We did.
We're prepared for it, kinda.
But it's dripping fluid freaking everywhere.
Oscar made a mess in my shop, by the way. Destroyed my workbench. Oil all over it.
It's
soaking it. Yeah,
pretty pink now. It's fine. So we had this bowl. We're gonna catch the fluid when it comes out, and then it's under spring tension. And I was trying to hold it, and I got it held, but pow.
And I was holding the plastic bowl just in case he slipped off of it. So this plastic bowl is at least going to stop some of the force it has, and that it cracked blew up the bowl. And
Well, thinking back now, we were idiots.
Yeah,
Why did we use a Tupperware
I don't
bowl?
know. Seemed right at the time.
It did seem right. Anyways, don't use a Tupperware bowl. There you go.
I got to buy a new Tupperware oil bowl. Good God, dude. It's ridiculous.
So getting that cap off and then makes a mess. So get the fluid out if you can first. That helps. I don't know if we'll cover it in the video. You could pull, but you're in the same boat. So eventually we'll get to this bolt that's in the bottom that holds the damper down. You could pull that off while the forks are on the bike, but it's going to come flying out and fluid's going to come flying out too. So
Right. I would do,
it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
I would drain them the best you can and then just, drain them off.
Or,
The
or
rest.
pull the cap and know that fluid's coming out at the
right.
top.
Right.
Because once you pull the plug, which is the first thing that we did, then you have an open fork. So fluid can come out the top. And I was not paying attention. I set it down. I'm like, oh, crap. What the hell? Anyway, so we got the cap and the plug and then the cap and then the spring comes out. And then from there, it was really fairly straightforward. I mean, we're going to show you how to put the seals and bushings on. They're pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
The videos I found on
it is, but it isn't. You say that because we know it now. This company, their instructions are, I say this nicely, some of the most horrible instructions and we've had a lot of bad instructions here. They make Harley look like they have good instructions, which is sad to say. And no, that's no skin off the company's back. They seem like really super nice people, down to earth.
Well, they didn't just cover the seals and stuff.
No, but even some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Let me just say that.
Okay.
That their instructions are not great and written by them.
Yeah, they were.
Right.
So the kit is
nice folks though.
The kit didn't include us taking the seals and bushings out. That was me wanting to replace that stuff because it's old. So we did that. And the videos that I found out there on that are pretty straightforward. As far as the fork seals and bushings themselves, the 39 and 41 and 49 mil forks are all pretty the same. So we're going to show you how to do it. We're going to show you all the parts fit together. It's pretty straightforward.
We'll show you the easy, fast, most efficient way to do it without it making any errors. Yeah.
So, and then in this kit that I bought, like my bike has dampers in it, fluid dampers. So the damper rod has a hole in it, and then there's a fluid damper at the top. And we don't need to get into fork design too much, but in this kit, we don't use the fork damper.
The stock fork damper. Yep.
We throw that away. So then so the directions to put without the seals, if you were just going to replace the guts and not do any seals or anything like that, you don't have to take the fork all the way apart. So we get everything put back together. We get the lower on. There's a bolt at the bottom. You're going to use an air wrench. If you don't have one, then you're going to have a buddy to hold the fork really tight down. If you've got an impact wrench, a pneumatic impact wrench or a electric one, that's a 6 mil bolt that holds the damper in. You pull that out and then you kind of use
it's a hex head, 6 millimeter hex. You will want an extended one because one of the sides you got to get up in a hole a little bit and get up in there. So have a little bit of an extended one. That's definitely a specialty tool you want, along with the fork cap wrench is helpful in the gym's fork holder tool. Yeah.
Right. Not super expensive. Once you break that little bolt loose, then you use the lower and the upper as kind of a slide hammer, and you just kind of keep pushing them together and pull them apart. Eventually they'll break apart.
The seal will break. Yep.
And then we show you how to do the seals and the bushings. There's a circlip on top you'll pull. We show you how to do all that. So that's pretty straightforward. And the video, we lay it out for you guys so it'll be super easy. So if you have a fork seal leak, we're going to show you how to fix that.
Right.
If you're not rebuilding it, we'll show you how to fix the fork seal leak. So then the problem with the instructions come, and I called this company on this because their video, it's just not straightforward. So I called this company. So what happens is the fluid damper is gone, and we're going to throw a spring and a spacer in there. The company provides a spring that is have a heavier weight but shorter, and they give you a spacer. And once again, we're not going to get into engineering of forks and springs, but so they tell you in the instructions. In the video, the video shows them giving you a PVC spacer, which is common, not a big deal. And then the instructions tell you to cut it.
And that's how our KLR suspension was too. But by the time we got it, they had modified it to what we got. Even though a lot of the videos showed up PVC, we got metal.
Exactly.
aluminum, right?
And the same thing happened to us today.
Yeah.
Open this
Been
kit.
here, yeah.
I didn't even pay attention because the video showed PVC. I didn't even open the box. I make sure the springs and stuff were in there. But I got here and hey, we've got nice, heavy aluminum spacers and they're thick, right? So the instructions say, and I called the company and I said, hey, we have the instructions and the video say to cut it flush, cut the spacer to extend the fork all the way out, and then cut the spacer flush with the top of the fork. And then the cap, the fork cap, once you install that and tighten it down, that will set the preload. Because they talked about setting the preload.
Right.
And if you wanted to mess around with the preload to cut the spacer different. And so I called them to say, like, okay, tell me about preload in the front with a spacer, not an adjustment screw, like some of the KLR suspension. And the guy's like, you won't have to worry about that. Your spacer will come flush. It'll be good.
He said flush.
Flush.
That's a wrong word to use.
Well,
Think about that.
it is. I agree.
It will come ready or flush. Do you want to use that word? Because flush to me means it comes flush with the top of the fork.
And that's what he told me.
Okay, thank you. I'm
That's
just-
what he told me.
I'm just
He said, you won't
clarifying.
have to cut anything. He said that was for, and in the video, they say this is for this bike, which was
Right.
a 19 Road Glide. But he said, no, it'll come already flush for your bike. It'll be fine. So okay, great. No big deal. We don't have to cut anything, even better. And then we get it.
Don't try to multitask.
I'm not doing. I can't do it. So we get everything put back together. Went together great. It was a lot easier than I thought. It was a lot more straightforward than the manual makes it. And then we found out the manual had some gaps in it. Like it doesn't. The actual Harley manual is not real straightforward. And so we go to put this thing back and we drop
So
the space.
hang on a sec. No, and because I want to say this, I want to give people a picture of this now, because so you have your fork. We've got it. We've got our seals, our rebuild kit. We've got it back on, right?
Yes.
We've got everything back on.
Yep.
So we've got the fork. You put fluid in it, right?
Well, you know what? The cap. We need to talk about the stop. The stupid stop.
Oh yeah. Talk about that real quick.
so,
Then we'll do this. Then we'll finish up with with the debacle.
So that little bolt at the very bottom of the fork, you pull that out, and there's a cap looking thing in there. It's the damper stop. So it eventually falls out. You can't. It's hard. You can't really see it in there. It just falls out. So on a video I watched, the guy just puts it over the end of the damper, and you shove the damper into the fork tube, and then eventually the fork tube goes into the lower, and then you thread the little bolt with the new copper washer right in there, and it's all good.
Right.
And
not detailed explanations from
not at all.
videos. Yeah, right.
And so the Harley manual actually showed the cap upside down. I mean, it looked, the way the manual shows it on the fork, it looked upside down. And we couldn't get it to thread, and because when I put it on the damper, it didn't fit right. It didn't just slide over the end. So we don't know. At that point, I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And so it didn't thread. So there's only one way that cap can go on. And it just, so anyway, we put it the way we thought it should go, and it threaded on perfect. And
the fork damper stop.
The damper, yes, thank you.
Stop. Yeah, not the cap. Yeah.
Well, some people refer to it as a damper,
cap.
at a cap, because that's what it looks like.
Right. And even the company instructions in their schematic shows it opposite of what it.
That was the manual. I think that
was a manual.
That
Okay.
was the Harley-Davidson manual.
It's okay. It's machined a certain way, and it showed that the machining part was up, and we're like, that's impossible because it's not long enough for the bottom bolt to go in. And this is just stuff we worked through, and we made sense of it. And we're like, nope, that's wrong.
And that was a good catch on your part, because you were like, dude, it doesn't feel like it's even seating. And then you took it apart, and we put the cap on the end how we had it, and you're like, look, the bolt doesn't reach that. It's
impossible. It's
right. The bolt threads into the end of the damper, and that stop is just there to keep the damper from hitting the very bottom of the fork.
Right. So
we figured it out. Eventually, you figured it out, and then so you put that all back together, put the seals, everything. The fork goes back together, and then we put this. So we're like, hey, this is supposed to be flush. Let's put it together before we do the fluid, and it's not flush. And the instructions say to cut the spacer to make it flush with the top of the extended fork, the top being the very top of the fork.
Right.
So
when you tell me it's supposed to be flush,
it flush with the top.
Flush means flush with the top.
So
Bob Williams has a question for you. Oscar, does AMSOIL make fork oil to use on our bikes?
Oh, crikey. So, no.
You got him off track. Way to go, Bob.
Yeah. So what
Good
happened?
job, Bob. I love it. I love putting Oscar on the spot.
I really wanted to mess around with this, and I may still, but the company I bought the kit from was very specific that it needed to be a 20 grade or 20, they call it a 20 weight fork oil. AMSOIL does not make a 20, they make a 10. And when I called the guy to ask about the spacer, I said, hey, what fluid? And can I use a 10? He says, do not use anything but a 20. So I don't, we can drain it and refill it with what AMSOIL makes and see what happens.
Riddle me this. What about a regular, let's say Bob is just trying to drain and replace his fluid. Can he replace it on a stock Harley? Do you know the answer?
I do know the answer.
To replace it with a 10 weight.
So if you could figure out what Harley's is it type B or type E? I can't remember which one's supposed to go. They have 2 fork fluids.
We're not even sure you had fork fluid in yours.
Well, it's a fork fluid.
Right.
ATF. It's I guarantee you it's ATF.
It's ATF.
It's ATF.
Rebranded as a fork oil.
Yes.
Right.
And so ATF.
It smelled like automatic transmission fluid.
It really did.
Once you had me smell both, I was like, oh, that smells totally different.
One's a fork oil, one's an ATF. So to answer your question, AMSOIL, so the maker of the kit dictated that I use, and AMSOIL does not specifically make a 20 weight fork oil that the maker of the kit required. And I was not gutsy enough to use their 10 weight. AMSOIL says their 10 weight is good for Harley front forks. But when you start changing the viscosity of a fork fluid, you change how it acts in the forks.
Right.
And if it's too light, or not viscous enough, the forks move too fast. Or if it's too viscous, they move too slow. And I was not in a position with this company's kit to decide on my own.
Right.
And I couldn't find the technical specs on the Harley fluid to know what the viscosities were. And I didn't spend a lot of time.
That's a great question, Bob.
It was a very good question.
Thank you for bringing that up. That was a good, because I once he read that, I want to know the answer. I never even asked you.
Yeah. And I wanted to cover that in this podcast. Thank you. So thank you, Bob, for bringing that up.
Yeah, very good. So we're going to wind down to the last big debacle, which we're actually excited about because we're going to be able to help a ton of bikers because of what we learned today.
We did. So,
hey, Bikeaholics, you searching for the easiest and quickest attachable luggage system for your motorcycle? Rick Rack has just what you're looking for. Forget all those frustrating straps and bungee cords that can come loose and slap your paint. Check out one of Rick Rack's awesome quick attach strapless luggage rack systems. This father-son team designed something really special you can't find anywhere else. Yep, and they ride, so they truly understand the needs of bikers. The Rick Rack quick attach system is strong, durable, and secure with a lockable system. Also, check out their full line of quality touring bags to accompany your quick detach system. Once you use Rick Rack, you'll never go back. What are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Head over to the law-abiding biker store and check out our full line of Rick Rack systems and bags. Love Rick Rack too. Happy to have them as sponsors, longtime sponsors, both them and 03D. We got to meet Shane and the crew right at their tent at Black Hills Harley-Davidson. Darian Sturgis got to hang out with them for 2 hours and meet a whole bunch of cool people. A lot of people stopped by for the meet and greet, so we appreciate that very much. So
that was my favorite part of Sturgis, by the way.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Cyril and hanging out with Rick Rack. I could have done without the rest, but being there and meeting patrons and putting names to faces was awesome.
It was.
I really enjoyed that.
Glad you said that. Me too. It was really cool. So here's what we're left with, and then we're going to wind this episode down.
Go ahead.
Please do.
Gary Jackson, if you guys didn't see it, Gary added that Harley's E is an Edward fluid, is a 10 weight or 10 grade, and that their heavy duty is a 20 weight.
Okay, good info, Gary. So Thank you
I'm
very
not
much.
sure what was in the bike, but I added a 20, so that makes sense.
Right.
Their B that must be their B. B as in bastard springs. B as in boy. Weight is probably the 20.
Okay.
Anyway, so
in your service manual, if your forks are stock, it's going to tell you what to use. But if you do an aftermarket kit, I would go by what they recommend.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So the spacer. So here we are, befuddled. That's a great word, befuddled. Because the directions say one thing and the video says one thing, but the dude on the phone told me something different. Super nice guy. I'm not knocking him at all.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, great company.
So this is our
lacking in that area.
It is. This is our mechanical rationale that when the spring came flying out, there was about 3 inches of spring hanging out of the fork when we took it apart. With the spacer, as it came to us, no modifications, no cutting, there was about 3 inches of spacer hanging out. So, you know, when there's nothing else, we defaulted to, looks like the stock setup has the spring hanging out. A video we watched, there was another one where the spring was hanging out and the guy had a hard time pushing the cap down. So
because stock guys doesn't have a spacer.
Right. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a spring. And the fork cap bolt, in this case, or fork cap nut, whatever it is, you know, you push it down and you try to force the spring down into the tube and then get it threaded.
Right.
In this case, it's a spacer, aluminum spacer.
Yes, because they use a different spring, a heavier spring. Anyway,
it's shorter, and they have to use a spacer to space it up, and it puts preload on it. Right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. So we went with, hey, let's keep it like stock looked. But I'm just going to be upfront. I don't know. Right now,
we almost though thought about cutting it.
We did,
and we had this discussion where, because their instructions again are so horrible, and it says flush, and I looked at Oscar. I said, dude, if it says flush, it means it's got to go flush with the top. I mean, that's what that means. But we thought about cutting it, and we were like, if it's not supposed to be cut, we can call the company, get a new one sent to us. You can take my bike home.
Yeah.
And again, this is just, and we couldn't call them.
Right.
Because they're closed.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you guys, we feel like we're pretty fair at reading instructions and mechanical stuff. This was horrible, and it really left us to make some decisions, which we made the correct ones.
I think we did.
Oh, I know. I
think we made the correct ones. So therein, I'm going to give a shout out to Bradley right now. Thank you, Bradley Barnes. Thank you, buddy. I owe you one. I owe you whatever.
Bradley was he was a friend for a long time, worked, and still does do a whole bunch of motors. He's certified in many areas, including Harley-Davidson, holds certifications, I believe. And right.
And yes, and he's just a super nice guy. He really is. So I want to give a shout out to Bradley. So we're befuddled because we're trying to push this damn cap down, and I didn't see,
because basically go ahead. For a visual, basically what you have to do is take the fork cap bolt, put it on top of the spacer and a washer, and somehow you've got to force all that spring down, that spacer down, like 3 inches of it. And this is a stiff spring. And at the same time, you push all that down while keeping your fork straight. And you got to try to thread that you hold down with all force and try to, it's like we described it as a jack in the box.
Yeah.
When you take the fork caps off, it's like a jack in the box. We took it outside, because eventually when you're taking the cap off, it's going to pop and your spring's going to go flying and stuff. And we were actually outside on the gravel, so it wouldn't, the second one, so it wouldn't burst all over. And that's what I actually said. I'm like, Oscar, this is like a jack in the box. I'm just waiting for it to go. And it finally does. And then Oscar laughed when it did. So it's just like a jack in the box.
Anthony Peters said he used the AMSOIL 10 in his Street Glide, and it worked great. I'm not sure what kit you used, Anthony, or if you just replaced the fluid, but anyway.
He might have just replaced, a
little bit of follow-up there on one of the guys.
Good info.
That did it. So we're like, what the heck? How do we do? Because I knew this might happen, and I looked up a trick I thought would work where you take the spring out, and then you set the cap on there and find where the threads just start. And then you mark it on the tube and on the cap. Yep. So that when you are pushing down, all you have to do is push down, and then just a little turn, boom, and it catches. That didn't work.
Yeah, trying to push down and turn with your hands. And then I'm holding the fork in between my legs with all my force. And I actually tried to be on, this sounds bad. I tried to be on top at first, but I later had to trade.
What happened was you said, hey, Oscar, you're a real fat ass and you have more body weight. So you come up here and push down, and it worked.
And Oscar, I don't know an easy way to say that. But we were in positions. Anyways, he's got more weight. I pushed down as hard as I could, but I ran out of weight. And so I couldn't quite get it. But basically what you want to do in a nutshell, take your spacer out, just get the threads in there. Without the spacer, feel what it feels like. You actually push down and it clicks into place, and then and then you turn it just until the threads start. Then you take a Sharpie, you mark your cap, you mark your tube. That way we know where the threads start. So the guy that is on top, whoever's lucky enough to be on top, gets to when the one guy's holding the tube like me, and he's hovering over and he's trying to push that whole assembly down in there with the fork cap, and then he hears that pop and he's got his lines lined up so he knows that's where the thread starts. That at least gets you set into a position where you might have some opportunity of success.
Yeah. Only it didn't, and we couldn't get that to work out because of the way that the cap is anyway.
So he thought if he pushed down hard enough and then I would try to turn the wrench while he was pushing down, that failed.
That didn't work either. So
don't worry, we've got a solution because we were pretty stoked.
Call Bradley and I says, hey buddy,
what do you use at the shop? What did you used to use at the shop?
He says, we use a shop press.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes perfect freaking sense. We don't have one of those.
Yeah, we do not have one of those on hand, although maybe I would like to have one.
They serve a lot of purposes. So he says, hey, obviously you need two people. You can't do it by yourself. He's at the shop. We couldn't do it by ourselves. He goes,
we were set there. We had two people.
We did.
Two monkeys.
So you were on the bottom. You were the bottom monkey, and I was the top monkey. And he said, hey.
I did not like being on the bottom, by the way.
Especially with my girth.
Never again, bro, will I be on the bottom.
He said, hey,
it's brutal.
Just push down real hard and have the guy on the bottom turn the tube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. Newsflash. Thank you, Bradley Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
Because we went back over, we reset up our trial run. Boom. Got it first time.
It's still difficult. Don't make it sound. You got to be on cue and you got to work together.
And we had to have the line. The line made the
line was made. That was very valuable.
Yeah, very was.
The other thing is you want to have something because it's a fork cap bolt essentially, and trying to put that much pressure is going to tear the shit out of your hand. So that didn't work for Oscar. So we thought of this. We grabbed a big, huge socket, not to turn the bolt, but it gave us a big flat surface so we could push down flat palmed and give more pressure to get those parts down in there. You could also use like a piece of thick metal on both sides and get a hand on both sides. Anything you can push straight down with to force those guts back down into there. And then because I'm holding the fork tube, once he heard it click and his lines are marked up and his hand's not being torn apart, he can hold it down there, and he's using all his weight. Let me tell you guys, this is still not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. He's using all his force and I'm trying to keep the fork straight. And then as soon as he heard it click, he goes, go. And we did it twice and it worked both times. And then I turned the tube under him. He's just holding the fork cap nut in a position. But of course, when you're doing that, you want to make sure and turn the fork tube counterclockwise because you want to go left because if you turn so I knew that ahead of time because I had thought about it. And so I turned left like 5 times as fast as I could. And he felt like it grabbed, and sure enough, it grabbed. The thing you want to remember is before you're certain that you have enough threads, get your face out from under that because we knew that it'll take teeth out if you only are barely hanging on with the thread. So before he let up, I said, back off, get your head and face. I got my head and face, and then we let go. And sure enough, we had threaded it multiple times. And we did that 2 times on both forks successfully after we figured it out. I'm going to do a separate video just for that. It's going to be like a 2-minute YouTube video just on how to do that. And it'll also be in the main fork rebuild and replacement kit. So
we had some high-fiving, a little woohoo.
We did.
Wow. That was a big thing.
And our big thing was we both looked at each other and go, do you know how many bikers were going to help with this?
Yes.
When I put this video out, just even the 2-minute one on, or it's going to be like 3 or 4 minutes, just on how to do just this part.
Yes.
It's going to help because this is what bikers run into in their garages and we don't have presses. Right. You know, the Harley shop's not going to tell you that, right?
No.
They're just going to put it in their big fancy press. And, you do this maybe once or twice in a lifetime. You're not going to buy a damn press just for this,
Exactly.
Although I might now, I don't know.
Well, we do other wheel bearings anyway.
I'm glad we got to figure it out the way that bikers in their garage are going to do this. So, yeah.
So that was a little success. And then, I mean, that's where we are right now is the forks are together and then we just need to put stuff back together. And it's just tedious, it's just time consuming. So, the kit I think will be fine. Is obviously stiffer springs. But once you get that cap on, then you do the reverse. And so we found using the pinch bolts, on the bike, is probably the way to go. So, you take the plug off, slide the fork in about halfway, crank it back down, tighten that, fork cap. It's a 21 mil open end wrench you have to use, and then loosen the pinch bolt again, slide the fork all the way up, and then put that cap on, and then you're going to snug it down. There are torque specs for it, but I don't know how you get a torque wrench in there. So really, we put that 1 3/8 inch box end wrench is a foot long, and I turned it, and that was enough. I mean, that's enough leverage. And the fork cap with the 21 mil open end wrench, I turned until I couldn't turn it, and that's enough.
Yeah.
So the torque specs aren't that. There's a torque spec on the pinch bolt we'll be able to do because we can get to it, but
just the bottom damper bolt torque specs, we torqued that, right? You said that.
Yep. Yeah. No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
I want to make sure. Yeah.
We torqued that one. So, I mean, it's really...
So finishing up the film project today, we're going to go back out. My wife's bringing dinner home. We're going to eat real quick. Finishing up this project, of course, we're filming it, is really this last fork. We've just got to put, and I'm fork fluid in it, and we'll show you how to measure that, make sure you get the right amount of fork fluid and all that. And then we got to get it, basically put the fork cap up and mount
it right back.
Mount it back to the bike. Where are you going?
Pee.
Oh, well, we're done in like 2 minutes.
I don't think it'll.
Okay. So anyways, I guess Oscar has to go pee really bad at the end of the episode here, but that's really where we're at with the film. And of course, then we got to put the wheel back on. We got to put, I'm looking at the bike here, the brake calipers, and really get everything zipped up. So I'm guessing probably another couple hours, but we've had a few times like this in the past where we ran late. I know Lurch and I, a couple of handlebar jobs that we did in the past. One went till 3 a.m. Just because they were not curved bars. They were the 90 bars. And these are just things we run into. And then of course, y'all know, because I've talked about it before, when we're filming, it takes 3 times as long. But we've had a great day and a fun time. And I appreciate everybody here being in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I might have a couple more announcements here, but we're going to go ahead and take it out of here. I do want to thank, of course, we love our patron members. We want you to become a patron member. We want to get to know you guys better in the private Facebook group. Of course, we want you to have access to these, live video broadcasts and chat and the meetups and all that. But if the only way you can support us is through a flat donation, we never balk at a flat donation. Rodolfo Sanchez of Houston, Texas, Joseph Orr of North Hollywood, California, Gerald Boyer of Merced, California. There you go. lawabidingbiker.com/donate. We also very much appreciate those flat donations. Good episode, Oscar.
It was. We still got to get back to work.
I told everybody thanks. I winged it at the end here by myself.
Oh, man.
Because you left at a really awkward time right as I was ready to go to the outro. I'm like, okay.
You were ready to finish and I left.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't want to wet my pants on camera.
You stopped short on me, dude.
It does happen sometimes.
That's messed up. All right, guys, call to action real quick. If you haven't done this yet, really, this is a free way for you to really, really help us and support us. And that is through our Amazon affiliate, because I know a ton of you shop. It doesn't matter what you buy on Amazon. That's the beautiful part. We get a small kickback if you use our affiliate link. So lawabidingbiker.com/Amazon. Once you go there, stay on that page, lawabidingbiker.com/Amazon. Just bookmark it. Bookmark it and title it on your web browser. Title it Help Lab, Lab Amazon, whatever you want to name it. And every time you go to Amazon, if you just hit that bookmark, you're going through to our affiliate link. And no matter what you order, we get a small commission. We get a small kickback because you're using our affiliate link. And it's no additional cost to you. And a lot of you have been doing that because I notice in some of the affiliate income coming in, which helps us to continue to do like what we just described to you today and spending, it's going to be a 14-hour day essentially when we're done and trying to really take pride in figuring things out for you guys and giving you videos and providing all, a lot of the stuff we do and trying to continue to do these live broadcasts and all that. Thank you guys. So that's my call to action. Just that Lab Amazon, guys. There you go. I hope you're all well. I hope you're definitely out there getting some riding in. Of course, wherever you're listening to us, on whatever podcast platform you're on, please, if you get a chance right now, take the time. All you listeners out there that are listening in regular podcast format, give us a rating. We really appreciate it. Just give us a good 5-star. If you can give us a 6-star, give us a 6-star. I don't know if you can do that, but at least a 5-star. We'd appreciate it, guys. It helps bump us up in the rankings so more bikers around the world can find us and join this thing we call the biker revolution.